Hello and welcome to Letters 2. Today I'm going to be talking about a letters from, which is my series where I do cozy advice and questions. So I am still waiting to get more submissions in for cozy questions. So while I'm waiting to get those questions from you all in, which I would love if you would ask me some questions, I'll be using r/advice on Reddit. So I did find this question kind of about when to reach out to people in your past, and particularly when to reach out to apologize. So this is what the original poster said. I'm at a crossroads burdened by past mistakes and unsure on where to move on in my life. I'm 27, and while that's young, it's also 5 years after college. Unfortunately, this will likely be a long message, so I'll add a TLDR, which is the only thing I ended up including because it also is a Reddit thread. So I wanted it to be more universal. I am stuck in an unrequited love situation and at a point in my career where I want to move to a new city and a different job. While my love life is one of the main reasons why I'm making this post, it's primarily my existential crisis that's driving this. Real. I'm at a point in my life where I realize I need to start living because I only have one life. The sad truth of getting older and not realizing it when young, like many others. I am currently mentally exhausted because of my existential crisis and overthinking. While I am living in the sense of traveling, hanging out with people, hobbies, I don't want to live life with regrets. My question is, I want to move cities, but I can't decide where because of an ex I still have a crush on. I want to express my feelings to her because I don't want to live life thinking what if. It's not just her though. I want to tell my friends sorry for things I've done in the past, but I'm scared of people overreacting, wondering, are you okay? Or that's a little much, resulting in me being outcast. Even though I should live life, would I be trauma dumping? Or is it okay to take a leap of faith and let them judge me for my attempts to reconcile? So I decided to kind of lean more towards the like reaching back out. As for the crush, I think this all still applies and can help you use discernment on whether or not you should reach out to a crush that you still have feelings for. And when they're an ex, I'm kind of always in the camp of shoot your shot if it's appropriate. So I'm going to kind of go over what I think is appropriate and what I don't think is appropriate, or at least things to consider when navigating if it's appropriate to reach out. I didn't really give a lot of advice on this. I'm kind of basing this off of a Substack article that I wrote. I didn't give much advice on how to like profess your feelings to an ex, just because I felt like the main part of the question was like, should I take a leap of faith and let them judge me for my attempt to reconcile? I feel like that is kind of applicable everywhere. Okay, so let me kind of get into the meat of it. I'm going to first give you some background on me to kind of let you know how I'm approaching this. So I'm also on the cusp of turning 27. I'll be 27 in a month. And I can really I can really relate to having regrets like this. Because when I was in college, I was a mess, especially my first year. I had held myself together in high school and I was this like overachieving perfectionist. I was in every single club that my school had to offer except for Future Farmers of America because I didn't want to be a current or future farmer of America. I was a cheerleader. So I went to like all the sports stuff. I was a track manager, which is like I just filled up water bottles, but like I got to go and like put it on my thing. And I graduated high school with an associate's degree from our local university, which was Western New Mexico University in Silver City, New Mexico. Oh, that's my alarm for my medication. The last time I did a podcast, it also went off. That's funny. Now you know it's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock, and that's when I have to take medications, but I'm going to wait a little bit. And I don't know. I feel like this is just my ego wanting to mention this, but there's a lot of schools now that have programs where like the high school advisors work with the college and they help you go through your track. But I do just want to mention that was before then, and my school is really small, so I kind of navigated that whole thing on my own. And I just mentioned that all to say, like the clubs and everything, I figured everything out on my own. And I was a super, super high achiever. And honestly, I think I've always been motivated and driven when I'm not depressed or like when I'm both. It's so hard. But I think I was really operating from a trauma drive when I was much younger because it was all just motivated and like, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of my city. It was like not even a town. I want to get away from my mom. Like it was just so motivated and like, I don't want there to be any chance that I can't get out of here. And when I was in college, I had the same mindset of like, I don't want there to be any way that I would not get a job after this. Because I grew up in poverty. I had a scholarship and then I paid for anything else out of my own pocket. When I was in college, I was working to graduate in 2 years. It ended up being 3 years, which is still like a lot early. About every year I took 18 credit hours. I think maybe there was 1 year where I took 15 or 16, but it was usually 18. I worked 20 to 30 hours a week. My last year of college was like 35 hours a week, plus internships. And then I also did theater my first year. And all of that was, except for the theater, was to make sure I had a job when I graduated. And I still had that drive in me. And I feel like it was that like scarcity drive. And so, a side note, I'm like so jealous of people who got to have like, I had fun college experiences for sure, but I feel like I would have loved to have like an easygoing college experience, like a lot of the people in my life did. And I just like so wish that could have been me, but I don't know if it ever would have been really. um, but at this time, while I was like stressed, I was totally in trauma drive. I was also dealing with PTSD or CPTSD, probably, emerging that came from growing up in my childhood in my hometown and with my mom and my parents. I had been in therapy for 16 to 18 for an essay that I experienced while I was in high school. And so we kind of just talked about that though when I was in therapy in high school. We didn't really talk about like any of the other stuff. And also, I think she like caught on. She would like sometimes bring up my mom, like, oh, do you wanna talk about your mom? And I would always be like, nope. I think it would have been too much for me to like open that box. You know what I mean? But once I got to college, all of a sudden I was in a safer place. And so the feelings started to bubble up. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you where you can push something down until you're away from it for far enough where you realize, or your body maybe realizes more that you're in a safer place. You're not in the place that you were in danger. And so all the feelings start to come up. So I had like 18, 19 years of trauma coming up that I had never addressed before. And I had 2 years of therapy under my belt, but it was very specific. I also, you know, I had the emotional maturity of an 18-year-old, which is not high, you know. And so I started therapy when I was in college, my second year. So when I was 19, and it kind of helped, but it was kind of like putting a band aid over like a gash. Like it was just enough to kind of help me kind of get by. But 1 hour a week couldn't help 19 years of trauma. So I smoked weed so much. I drank alcohol so much. I slept with a lot of people I shouldn't have. I made really poor decisions. I wasn't a good friend at all. Um, I mean, I don't know who is at 18 when they are like probably using substances, like abusing substances and totally traumatized and totally stressed out. But I wanted to be a good friend. I just like I did not have the capacity to be a good friend. Oh my God, I can't believe I admitted all this in the article, but I feel like that's the nice part about not having a lot of subscribers, I will say. A lot of people on like social media will be like, oh, the dreaded 2 to 300, how to get more subscribers. And I'm like, while I would like more, and that's obviously the goal, I don't want to shrink or stay the same, but I want to grow. I feel like there's such a gift to not having a lot of subscribers, like I can say a lot of stuff that people with a big platform can't really say. So I don't know. I'll just say it. Some of my examples from the articles where I slept with my best friend's crush. She had a crush on him for like 3 years, and I slept with him for about 3 months, and I hid it from her the whole time. I had a love triangle with my roommate that I was in love with, and she was straight, or so she thought, until she met a girl that I was talking to, and then had her gay awakening with her. And I like, I hid that I was still talking to her from my roommate. And then when I realized that those two were like a thing, and this girl had like another girl that she was talking to in another city, um, then I started talking to her best friend. um, I would ghost friends. Sometimes it was on purpose, sometimes it was on accident because I was just so like, I'd push myself to these huge breakdowns. I would melt down in the dining hall and just be like sobbing, having a panic attack several times a semester. I remember when I was in my honors math statistics class, or my psychology honors statistic class, I would cheat off this girl, and I was like pretending like, oh, let's check our answers with each other. And then she would send me hers first. And I'd be like, oh my God, I got all the exact same. But like I wasn't doing them. If ChatGPT had been a thing, or AI just in general was more of a thing, then I would have been using it for my statistics homework. Um, I remember one time it was the middle of the day and I was having some sort of breakdown. I put pineapple vodka from my dorm room, I put it in a coffee cup. I closed the coffee cup and I went to work. And I remember I was like drunk by the time I left. And I remember in my head, I was like, no one knows. In retrospect, I'm like, damn, I wonder if people knew. One time for my birthday, this like skeezy guy offered to get me high on dabs, like the wax, condensed wax, THC that you put in that creepy thing with the blowtorch. I got so high they had to call 911. The ambulance came, and then I was on like probation or something from housing because I lived on campus. I don't know. There's like a lot of examples I could probably think of, and probably ones that I don't remember that like I don't need to remember. But like all that to say, I was a mess. So I really understand the feeling of living with regrets. Like there are so many people in my past, and not even like I'm talking, I was in college from 18 to 21. Um, yeah, right? Yeah. um, Even into like my 22nd year, I feel like I was just such a mess. And that was only 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago. So this kind of the same timeline as this person. Um, yeah, so I live with a lot of regrets, and I wish I could show all of those people like who I am now and who I'm still growing into, because I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I'm healed, although no one is healed. Healing is not like, it is a journey, it's a spectrum, and we always have new things that are making us heal. Um, but as a whole, I think I'm like much more grounded. I know how to communicate more, better, not perfect. I think I'm more level headed. I don't think I'm having like these big dramatic moments where people have to um, like console me, I guess. Um, I'm also like 99% sober. I have a drink, maybe like had a drink from my wedding. I drank the night of my wedding, and then I drank in like December, this last December. So I drank like 2 times a year. Not, I didn't have two drinks. I had more than two drinks, but it was like two drinking times. And I'll probably go quite a while without drinking again. I don't smoke. Actually, I would love to. It just made me anxious all of a sudden. It would make me super chill and super calm. And then it changed. It turned on me. I'm just on that Wellbutrin, y'all. And there's so many things that I wish I didn't say, or wish I had said, or wish I handled better. I also did not know how to handle conflict at all. Um, but I just like, I can't get over that feeling of like wishing they knew who I was now. And not even because I want a relationship or a friendship or even like to be in contact with them, but I like just wish they could see that I've changed and that I'm not the person that they knew. I mean, I'm still her, but like I feel like if you were to take me and her side by side, we're so different. But like actually, it might not be helpful for everyone to see the person I am. It might just be helpful to let them go. Or maybe it is helpful. I don't know. So that's the question, right? To reach out or not reach out. I'm a Pisces. There's the song, Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all this time, that's like the story of my life. I want to send like my little hello messages, my hello calls. Um, and I have sent so many like long, lengthy apology messages in my time. A lot. My hello. And sometimes they were well received. A lot of times I think people were like, oh, like thanks, you know. And sometimes I ended up being blocked or just like not responded to. And those people I'm like, good for you. Because I feel like those long messages I would send were like, they were trauma dumping in the way that I was doing them. Because I was like, hey, I want to apologize. It was one, is out of the blue, it's out of nowhere. Hey, I want to apologize for this, and this. This is what I was going through, blah, blah, blah. I'm so sorry. And it's like, that's nice. And I remember one person, she was like, oh, yeah, like it's never too late. This is so nice. Thank you. That's really sweet of you. And I was kind of like, do you have anything to apologize for? But anyways, don't do that. Don't do that. I actually mentioned that later, but don't go in with expectations. But I think it was like inconsiderate of me to send such a long and emotionally charged message out of the blue without asking or like setting up kind of a barrier where they can choose to engage or not. Because that was trauma dumping, and I think it asked a lot of emotional labor for them. So here are some things that I think you should consider if you want to reach out. First of all, how did you end things? I feel like this is really important. Did they end amicably? Did you just kind of drift apart? I would say then a reach out kind of just feels more easy. Like it's not like anything horrible happened or big happened. It just kind of like, yeah. You might be still friends on social media. You might do like, oh, happy birthday, or like you like some of their posts sometimes. I feel like that way, like things aren't bad between you guys. It just didn't really like end perfectly. But if things ended really tumultuously or like really dramatically, or like someone just cut someone off, it doesn't mean you can't reach out or you shouldn't reach out. It's just something to be like extra cautious with. Is it safe to reach out? Was the person you want to reach out to abusive or dangerous or just like not an emotionally safe person? Because if then, I don't think you should reach out, because that's also putting your safety in at risk. Doesn't sound like this is the case with the letter writer, but just generally speaking, keep yourself safe. It's worth it not to like, it's better to not say certain things and be safe than the other way around. And then also, honestly, were you abusive? Were you like a toxic person? Because if that's the case, they probably also don't want to hear from you, and it could really delay their healing for them to hear from you. Plus, I think like when that's the case, are we reaching out for us or for them? And there's this Friends episode, I don't know if you've seen it, where I think it's Phoebe and Joey. I can't remember, talking about how there's no such thing as a purely altruistic good deed that's entirely for someone else, because you're always doing something for yourself. Um, even though like a good deed makes you feel good. So it's okay if it's a little bit for you, but do you actually think it's going to help this person to hear from you? Just think about it. And on a less intense level, like maybe not abusive or unsafe or dangerous or toxic, are they the kind of person who can have a non-charged conversation? I'll give an example from my life. I have two friends from my past who I'm using like to kind of call to mind the differences. One is very like loving. It didn't end perfectly, but we have been in communication a little bit. Like there's been some words exchanged in a good way. And I know like we are very, very similar people, both Enneagram twos. And I know that when the time comes, because we both do want to have like an in-person conversation to talk about more, I know that we might have feelings of anger or annoyance or frustration, or I mean, I'm definitely going to cry, but I'm a Pisces. But I know that it's like a nice, safe, non supercharged conversation. Like I know that we would both be wanting the outcome to be good for both of us. Um, but I also know of someone from my past who is very reactive, very judgmental, very negative, impatient, unkind, and just not really like open minded. And so, even though there are things I would like to say and things that I feel like would be helpful for both parties to say, um, like I don't think that would be a non-charged or productive conversation. So I'm not going to open myself up to vulnerability from someone who I don't think can meet me with the same vulnerability. And that's how I'm maturing. um, maybe I don't know. We'll see. So I think this is kind of important. When you were together, whether you're friends or a partner, what were their opinions on people reaching out and apologizing? So if has they have they ever mentioned this? I'm someone who I have always said things like, I wish I just knew why. I've always wondered if they felt bad. I always wonder what they thought of me, whatever. So I feel like most people that I know would know that I would want to be reached out to. So if they've said stuff like that, or they've kind of expressed the desire to reach out to a lot of other people, then probably they would be open and accepting of you reaching out. If they have either, like if someone has reached out to them while you've been friends with them or partnered with them, how did they react to it? Were they like, F this person, I can't believe they're doing this? Like, oh, I'm blocking them, the audacity of them, they expect me to hold space for them. Or like my husband, I've even said, like, do you ever wish like so and so and you could have a conversation about how things ended? And he was like, no, not really. Like, why would I want that? And I'm like, weird. Okay. But he's a Scorpio moon. So I'm like, I guess people are different. So I would know like if, well, I don't know, but I like you can kind of tell by the things that they've said about other people and people from their past and kind of gauge that with you. So I think I kind of mentioned this before, but will it hurt their healing for you to reach out? I talked about like being the toxic one, and if you're the one reaching out, like is it a good idea? But I I had a high school ex, and we were together for like 3 years or something, 8 years ago, very long time ago, and like in totally different points in our lives, and we've had so many experiences since then. And I feel like high school relationships are more akin to friendship sometimes. And so when I found out that we lived in the same city now, I was like, oh my God, like it'd be so much fun to like meet up with them, catch up with them, see how they're doing. Like I would love to even like be someone like a support system. Like maybe we're not besties, probably not, but because I don't think that would be like compatible. But I would love to be like a support network for them. Like if they need something, I'm there or whatever, like an extension of home, kind of, because we grew up with each other. And so I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And then I found out through someone else that like it was actually kind of hard for him to know that I was in the same city, and it was hard for him to see me and like stuff like that. So I knew that I really wanted to like connect. And I also knew that for whatever reason, that wasn't something that was healthy for them. And I also know that a big part of why I wanted to connect is so I could be like, look, I'm healed. Like, I'm not a codependent, emotionally emotionally explosive person that I was when I was 16. Like I'm a almost 27-year-old grown woman. Like how exciting. I want you to know me like this. Um and also like I just have to accept that like they're not going to know me like this and that's okay. And also, I think, what are your values? And does this action align with your values? Which is kind of going back to the like, are you doing this to ease your guilt? Are you doing this for attention and validation for your ego? Um, are you actually doing it in the sake of like mending and healing and communicating and being honest? Like, I think that's something to think about. So, if after all this, you're like, no, I still want to reach out. Okay, cool. I can't tell from the original poster if they are still friends with their group of friends. It kind of sounds like maybe. I kind of got mixed vibes. I also did not read. They had like a very, very long paragraphs, a long essay that further elaborated on the question, but I decided not to read it since I'm just doing the TLDR. So I'm kind of going into this as if like you're not still connected to your ex and or friends. And this is also just approaching it from the perspective of like apologizing or clarifying. So yeah, keep that in mind. So one, I kind of mentioned this before, but consent can be tricky. Like I said, I've sent those long emails or long messages where it's like, here's everything I've ever felt. And yeah, they were like sincere and heartfelt and vulnerable. But again, I feel like that's very jarring to just like get out of nowhere. Um, and the original poster said that they don't want to trauma dump, and I think this is like kind of what they were talking about. So sometimes asking for consent would be helpful. So you can always send a message like, hey, I've been thinking a lot about you and the regrets that I have. I would like to apologize to you and maybe offer some insights into the situation. Is this something that you're open for me doing? If not, I understand. Either way, I want to apologize to you. Period. Or something of the like. And then you could also say, like, hey, would you prefer a text? Would you prefer an email? Would you prefer a phone call? Do you want to meet up in person? Obviously, don't offer one of these things if you're not interested in doing them. Like if you're like, I'm not sending you this all in a text, don't say that. I'm not meeting up with you. Don't offer that. But I think kind of being like, hey, I have an apology for you. What do you want it? Let me know. I think that can be helpful because you're still reaching out to them, you're still being vulnerable, you're like, I have something to apologize for. You can choose whether or not you want it. So I think that's kind of putting it back in their hands. You can also say something like, I would like to apologize to you, I've written a letter, etc. And I'm wondering if you would be open to me mailing it to you if you're someone that expresses themselves really good with writing. Or something I was thinking was you could email them with like a very clear subject line of like, I'm apologizing to you. I don't know. And then like maybe in the beginning be like, hey, so and so, I'm emailing you this. This has like been weighing really heavily on me and I really wanted to reach out to you. Please know you don't have to read this. You don't have to respond. You can wait to read this as long as you need to. Um, but I like wanted to apologize to you. That's what's in the email, whatever. And then you can like wait or not wait. But I think also if you send the email, it might be nice to then like text the person and like, hey, I owe you an apology. I'm really sorry about some things that have happened in my past with you. I've sent you an email that has a like a longer form apology. There's no pressure at all to read it. You never have to reply to it. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. So that's in your email if you want it. So that way they still have space around the information. I think that's what's important is not being like, Hi, here's what's wrong. I'm sorry. And giving them like a little bit of time to like decide if they want to engage or not. And also prepare yourself for a response or lack of response that you don't want. So, if, like, ideally, of course, every time we send an apology, they might apologize back. And I feel like, oh, well, I'm sorry for X, Y, and Z. Or, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Or even like, it's okay. I don't even think anything you did was wrong. That's like the best, right? And of course, we're always going to want these things. But you have to be okay with them being pissed at you, writing or saying something that is like mean, really cold, just like a thanks. Oh, cool. Like you have to be ready for them to respond in a variety of ways before you send it. Make sure you're okay if it doesn't go how you're probably desiring it will go. And if you still feel proud of your words and you feel like you're acting in your integrity, even if you even if you say something that they don't like or they say something that you don't like or they never respond, then that's what's important. I think there have been things, especially after my mom passed, when I was like not at my emotionally strongest, um, where I said things that like I handled things that weren't perfect. But even in the moment, I was like, I am absolutely doing the best that I can with this. I am still acting from integrity. I'm not saying anything unkind. I'm not lashing out. And that's all. Like, I don't care that it's not perfect, but I'm still acting in a way that makes me feel proud of who I am. And I think that's the most important thing. A couple little quotes I wanted to touch on from the letter or the post, which was the first one was, I don't want to live with regrets. And speaking of my mom passing, I really relate to this. Because when my mom passed, the main motivator was for me living and like not living, but like pushing through, I guess, was not wanting to live with regrets and not living fully like her because she lived a very like sheltered, isolated life. And I know she had a lot of regrets. And I don't want to continue the cycle, period. But I really don't want to continue the cycle of like the women in my family, honestly, on both sides, like living this life that's like empty and like kind of meaningless and void of connections and authenticity. Like I want to be the woman on both sides of my lineage that are like, I'm living fully, I'm living with joy, I'm following my heart, I'm following my passions, I am expressing, I am helpful. Like I have people in my life. My life isn't centered around like an abusive man. I am not, I don't struggle with addiction. Like I fully understand like not wanting to live life with regrets is all I'm saying and live fully. But it's impossible to avoid regrets because every decision you make, every yes you make is a no to something else. And sometimes there are situations where like there's just an opportunity cost, right? Like the opportunity cost of getting married if you're monogamous is not being able to pursue other relationships, etc. The opportunity cost of taking a job is that you can't travel whenever you want. Or like you can't have this job or this job or this job. The opportunity cost of not having children is or like wanting to be child free, which is what I want to do, and have like more time to yourself and more money and to be able to foster relationships with children that maybe aren't mine, and be like a mentor and an aunt and whatever. The opportunity cost of that is not getting to have kids. There, maybe you choose to have kids. The opportunity cost is to not be able to do certain things. Um, the opportunity cost of going out is not being able to stay home. Like everything has an opportunity cost to it. And every decision has another decision that we could have made instead that maybe was like better or good or cool or bad. I don't know. So it's, I think, good to remind ourselves that we only have this one life. So we need to live it authentically and boldly and vibrantly and like beautifully and honestly. We also want to avoid a scarcity mindset because life isn't about avoiding regrets. And if that's the goal of life, you're going to be disappointed. And I think that's kind of what I did in 2024 is I was like I'm living, and I think I like really burned out, and now I'm like I'm exhausted. I'm so burnt out. So the letter writer said, I'm scared of people overreacting, wondering, are you okay? Or that's a little much, resulting in me being outcasted. And I said, well, sounds like you're already moving. Sounds like you're already moving. You don't know what city to move to. It sounds like this person is maybe considering, like, what if me and my ex get back together? Maybe I won't move. I don't know what is going to happen with the ex part, but if you're moving, like, eh, you're going to be outcast location wise, right? And if you do have something to apologize for and you have something that you regret, probably there's already a strain on the relationship happening. So acknowledging that strain is not the thing that's going to cause strain, you know? And if your friends push you away after you apologize and you try and make things right, then that friendship wasn't so solid in the first place. And like what do you have to lose, right? Like you already feel regretful. You already feel like there are things that you need to apologize for. Like what do you have to lose? Also, sounds like, and this is kind of the like whenever someone asks me for advice, I will give it. But I'm like, it sounds like you're trying to convince me to do blank. And you're trying to talk me out of thinking that you should do this or shouldn't do this. So, this letter writer, I think, is trying to convince us that it's okay to apologize and shoot your shot. So, it sounds like you already know what you want to do. You just want permission. So, TLDR, my advice is if it's not obviously hurtful to you or to someone else, you'll never regret saying what's true for you in your heart. And I had a moment recently actually where I was like noticing something in someone and I was thinking like, man, I've been through something similar as her. I can recognize parts of myself in her. I'm going to reach out and say, I'm going to open up the dialogue and see if they want to connect over this. And she was like very uncomfortable. It like definitely blew back in my face. The person was like, why are you asking me this? So I was like, oh, okay. Like that wasn't the vibe with this person, and that's okay. But the thing, like, it was awkward, and I was kind of like, noted. That's not our dynamic, and that's not what she likes to feel loved. But I don't regret it. It like I wish it wasn't awkward. I wish I didn't have that experience, but I don't regret it because I was acting in alignment with I was acting with integrity. I was acting with my heart. I was acting with my values. I was acting with love. Um, and like at the end of the day, I will never regret doing things like that. So that is my advice for if you should reach out or not. I'm curious to hear from other people. Have they reached out to people before to apologize or to like talk it out? Have you had people reach out to you? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'm very curious. But in the meantime, definitely ask me some questions. The link to submit a question will be in the notes of this. So please go ask a cozy question. I've also answered questions on My Best Friend Keeps Ghosting Me. It's about a friend who's a person whose friend is in a relationship, and once they get in that relationship they're like kind of being a shitty friend, or like not super interested in them anymore. I've also done one, it's like I don't believe in God, or like I do believe in God. It's like a spirituality religion one, which is I'm totally an expert in, not. Yeah, that might be it. I mean, that might be it. Anyways, enjoy. Thank you for listening and or watching. I'll see you next time.